Welcome to Life Unlimited. I'm Nora Oliver, your host, life coach, author, and founder of 10X Nora Oliver. My passion is helping people break through obstacles, take action, and create the life they truly want. Whether it's personal growth, career success, or relationships, this show is all about giving you the tools to elevate every day of your life. And today, we're diving into a topic that affects every single one of us. That's sleep. If you ever struggle with feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or just not performing at your best, this episode is for you. My guest today is Jen Patenaude, the founder of Jennifer Eve Wellness, where she helps busy entrepreneurs and executives optimize their performance by making sleep a top priority. As a sleep and wellness coach, Jen knows that quality rest isn't just about feeling good, it's essential for focus, productivity, and overall well-being. She's here to share simple, effective strategies that fit even the busiest lifestyles, so you can finally wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Stay tuned because by the end of this episode, you'll have actionable steps to transform your sleep and your life. So let's get started. Jen, it's so good to have you here.
So good to be here.
I have so many questions to ask you and so much I want to know because sleep affects so many people in so many ways. So I'd like to start by kind of asking you, like, what are some of the struggles that people face and why do people struggle on their daily life because of the sleep, right?
Yes, and sometimes people don't realize that it's the sleep, why they're struggling in their daily lives. But some common sleep struggles are trouble falling asleep in the evening. A lot of people experience wake-ups during the night and then have trouble falling back to sleep. And then there are some people who wake up earlier than they want to and aren't able to get back to sleep. And the reasons for all these vary by person. But there are definitely some common fundamentals that people can implement and put into place that can really help with all of those struggles.
That's good. So there's hope. There's something you can do to improve your sleep.
Yes, yes.
That function, that's good. So what are the biggest sleep myths that people still believe?
A couple sleep myths. People think that they can catch up on their sleep on the weekends. So maybe they're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours during the week each night, but they figure it's okay, I'm going to make up
until
for
11,
it
12.
Exactly. Yeah. And the body just doesn't work that way. So you can actually only probably make up about 25% of your sleep debt that you've accrued during the week by sleeping more on the weekend. So that's not nothing. That's okay.
Right, but your body's still not where it should be.
Exactly. So you really need to make your sleep more consistent throughout the entire week and not just rely on the weekend time to try to make up for it. Another myth some folks believe is that, well, during sleep, nothing's going on, right? My body's just sleeping, doing nothing. There is so much going on in the body during sleep, and it's so important. It's how the body restores itself and regenerates, and how we process information and emotions, and there's just a ton going on. And a lot of those processes are key for our health, and not just our physical health, but our mental health. And if we're not getting the right amount of sleep and we're kind of stunting those processes, then it really has an impact on us.
Right, and I hear that the longer you don't get normal, regular sleep, it interrupts your REM sleep. Not only that, but during the sleep, it's actually, your gut region, what's the word? There's a specific term they use, like while you're sleeping, it's actually doing its cleansing, and it's giving you the energy it needs because, we're asleep for how many hours and we don't get hungry, right? You think about that. Yeah. There's a reason for that, right? Because it's doing its job, and then when you wake up, you're not that hungry, but once you start going, I need food, right? I need energy because now you're moving, your body needs energy to move. So it totally makes sense. So how much sleep do we really need, and is it the same for everyone? That's a question I hear pretty often.
Yes, so the general recommendation is between 7 and 9 hours a night. There are outliers, so some people who don't need quite that much, and some people need a little bit more. You might hear some people in the wellness space say that women need more sleep than men. And there are differences between men. Men tend to fall asleep faster than women, but women on average tend to get deeper sleep during the night. And then if folks who have maybe some health issues, they might need a little bit more sleep. But there are definitely, if you're getting consistently fewer than 7 hours of sleep, what we call short sleep, that has an impact. But also folks that are consistently getting kind of too much sleep, then that's a red flag that, okay, maybe there's something going on either with their mental health or physical health that we need to take a look at.
Well, that's a good point. That's a great point. I know some individuals that actually only need, and I'm not kidding, they only sleep 4 hours a night. And they have a ton of energy and they can function normally and they're fine. But then if I only had 5 hours of sleep, I cannot function that well. My brain doesn't work. I'm very tired all day. And it takes me days, like we talked about catching up with sleep, it takes me days to feel normal again.
Yeah.
Of like days of normal sleep, 8 to 9 hours of sleep for me to actually start to function at 100% myself. So like you said, everybody's very different at that. I do want to talk a little bit about, and I hear this, and I don't know how true it is, but I hear that women, they're basically asleep, was it 20, 30%? So their brain is 90% awake all night versus males. So for instance, like you have a baby, a female is able to hear a baby up way before a male because of that, like the way we're conditioned and the way our brain is set, it functions as a female. I do want to do a little bit of research on that, but I don't know if you have any insights on that.
That's interesting. What it brings to mind is there is this phenomenon called unihemispheric sleep, which we find in some animals, and humans can experience a really mild form of it, and it's sleeping with one half of the brain at a time. So for instance, dolphins who need to be constantly moving. So one half of their brain will sleep, so the other half is vigilant and awake and keeping the body moving, and then once that half of the brain has rested enough, and then it switches to the other half of the brain.
Oh, wow.
Some bird species, in order to protect the flock, they will situate themselves and have the two birds on either end will literally sleep with one eye open. And so they're just sleeping with half their brain, so they can kind of scan and make sure, and then at some point during the night they'll resituate themselves to use the other eye and the other half of the brain.
I believe in that. I have birds, okay? I have 4 little birds, different kinds, parakeets and, a cockatiel. And they do sleep with one eye open, and it's very creepy because they're on the sides like, what? I can see your sleep. But then the moment they hear something, boom, they're up. It's so creepy.
So humans, oftentimes when we experience this, it might be when we're traveling or we're sleeping in an unfamiliar space. So hotel, Airbnb, whatever that may be, excuse me. And so it keeps you just, below the conscious level. So if any danger were to happen, we can wake up easier than if we were deeply asleep.
That's why we don't sleep so well when we are on vacation or on a business trip or
Right, it can take a few nights to adjust.
Right. Yeah.
And it's in those situations, it's sometimes helpful to bring some things from home, whether that's your own pillowcase or a particular white noise machine that you may use, something like that. However you can make the surroundings more familiar.
That makes a lot more sense. So what is the number one reason people can't fall asleep at night?
So there are many reasons, but I think that especially in our culture, which is such a go-go hustle culture, I think it's the inability to calm our nervous system in the evening when it's time to go to sleep. We go 100 miles an hour during the day, and then we expect to lay down in bed and fall asleep like that, and our body doesn't work that way. And the analogy that I love, that I heard from Dr. Matt Walker, who's a sleep scientist at UC Berkeley, is it's like landing a plane. So a plane lands gradually, right? It doesn't just vertically drop from the sky. It lands gradually. And it takes the efforts of the pilot, the grounds crew, air traffic, the flight attendants need to get the cabins and the passengers ready, right? All those things need to happen in concert in order for that plane to land safely. And our sleep is the same way. We have to prepare our bodies.
Right.
So and not just down. Right, wind down in the evening. And there are ways that you can prepare your body throughout the day to help regulate your nervous system and calm your nerves. Just take a few minutes throughout the day to do some breathing exercises or quick meditations, or just step outside into the sunlight. And then when you do lie down at night, say you go to use some of those techniques, the breathing, meditation, whatever, your body knows how to respond. And then you can more easily fall asleep.
I like that. So here's an example for me, right? I try and handle the most challenging, difficult projects or whatever is going on in my life early in the morning, because I have all day for me to kind of start to wind down and be able to fall asleep. If I were to move that difficult project or person or client at the end of the day, I have a hard time falling asleep because my brain is like too stressed out or, you know, trying to solve whatever problem that's happening. So I do that in the morning, and then I leave the more fun, exciting, calm things towards the end of the day. That works for me. And I've now have this ability to completely shut my brain off when I want to.
That's perfect.
And it's amazing because I never thought that was possible. I literally can shut my brain off and fall asleep in 5 minutes. I wouldn't even know how to show you exactly, but it's taken 2 years for me to really finally find out what works for me, how am I gonna get there, but it's really planning the day. Like, nope, this is too much for me. It's 5 o'clock, I'll deal with that tomorrow. It's not urgent. My sleep is more important. And then there's things that happen that we just can't control, and we have to deal with that. You know, it's at night, like sick kids, or, you know, you interrupts your sleep and that sort of thing. That's stressful. So what can someone know, or how can someone know if they have a real sleep disorder versus just bad sleep habits?
So a few ways that you can tell if you share the bed or sleeping space with a partner, if they have mentioned that you snore, or sometimes it seems like maybe you've stopped breathing, or even if you notice sometimes you wake up with a gasp, then you might want to be analyzed for obstructive sleep apnea. If your partner said, you know, your legs move around a lot, or you twitch, you know, different body parts, then that could be something like restless leg syndrome. Or if you act out your dreams, it could be REM sleep behavior disorder. There are a lot of different sleep disorders. If you know that your sleep hygiene is pretty well dialed in, and we can talk about some aspects of sleep hygiene, but if you know that you're doing all the right things and you're still waking up and you're not rested, you're not feeling yourself or 100%, then you definitely want to try to find out if maybe there's something else going on.
Those are some great points. What's the ideal nighttime routine for someone who struggles with falling or staying asleep?
Again, this can vary for folks. So like you were saying, you know, by 5 o'clock, you try to have everything that might stress you out or that's not going to help you sleep. You try to have that done. And that's, the body keeps different hormones and neurotransmitters and stuff in balance. And so cortisol and melatonin is one of those dynamics that the body likes to keep in balance. And so if in the evening you are doing stressful things, even exercising.
That does that. If I exercise at night, I can't fall asleep. I'm too hyped up.
Because it raises your cortisol level.
Right.
And so by default, if your cortisol is raised, your melatonin is low. And we all know we need melatonin to help facilitate sleep.
Right.
So anything, whether it's responding to work emails or an argument with a spouse or the kids are acting up, anything that raises our cortisol level
going out
in the evening,
Right.
yes, is going to impact our ability to fall asleep.
Right.
So as you mentioned, just having a wind down routine in the evening, and for a lot of us that means trying to avoid screens as much as possible, especially 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. The blue light can disrupt our melatonin production, which you may not notice it in terms of falling asleep. You still might be able to fall asleep fine, but it might impact your ability to sustain sleep throughout the night.
That's true.
And the other piece of the puzzle with screens is because some folks, they don't feel like the blue light or what they're watching is amping them up. They don't feel like there's an issue. But what happens with a lot of us is you get involved in a Netflix show or you're scrolling on through social media, and the next thing you know, you blow right past your bedtime.
Yep. It's so common.
Yes.
Very, very common.
Yeah. And there is such a thing as a second wind. So your body says, oh, okay, we're awake right now, gets that second wind, and then it takes you another however long, hour or so for your body to wind back down again, feel sleepy, and get ready to go to sleep.
It's like a baby, right? If it misses its bedtime, what happens to a baby? It has a hard time falling asleep.
Exactly.
It could take an hour or two. It's exactly what's going on with our brain, right?
Yes.
We don't cry and scream, maybe some, but it's our brain is struggling. But also, I find other struggles with some of my clients, like they're used to taking medication to fall asleep or melatonin, and now their brain is dependent on that, so it's not producing its own melatonin. So now when they get off it to try and sleep, they have a hard time. But also, if you take it long term, there's side effects for, long-term side effects that could be pretty serious. So there's so much that goes on. And, that's why we're talking about really finding the root cause of what's keeping you awake. What are you doing throughout the day? What are you doing with your routines as well? I know clients that leave their TV on and the news is on all night and they don't sleep well.
Right.
Like, imagine your brain is hearing all these, crazy, bad, sad stories. What do you think it's doing? It's processing as you're asleep. And that's why it may be important to, if you're going to keep it on, maybe put affirmations, right?
Yeah.
So at least
absolutely.
your brain is like, oh, I am great, I am good, or, I'm successful, whatever. So your brain is, learning to rewire and be positive versus the news. So there's a lot that we can do.
There is. And you mentioned babies when they miss their bedtime. We forget about, we spend so much time, right, trying to perfect our children's nighttime routine to make sure that they get to sleep and they stay asleep. But then we forget about it when it comes to ourselves.
We sure
It's
do.
the same concept.
Right. Is it possible, we talked about the catch up on lost sleep. Is that more of a myth, or do you feel like, what if let's just say your kids are sick 3 nights in a row? Like, what do you recommend that a parent does to kind of help them with, we talked about you can't really catch up on the sleep, but is there something that you can do to help with that? Do you think maybe taking a nap is helpful, or do you think that's just going to mess you up with falling asleep that day?
No, naps can definitely be a good tool from time to time, as long as you're not napping too close to your bedtime, because then that can make it harder for you to fall asleep at night. But even a short 15 to 20 minute nap can do wonders. It can help cognitively, help you feel a little more energized, And so the reason that the power, the 20-minute power nap is suggested is because what's called sleep inertia when we wake up. So even in the morning when we wake up, or when you wake up from a nap, it's that kind of groggy feeling. It's the time it takes you to get going, to really feel awake and alert. And so the longer you nap, the longer your sleep inertia. So you may experience even more benefits from a longer nap, but you have to plan into your schedule the time it's going to take you to overcome that sleep inertia. So that's why they recommend the 15-20 minutes, because you are getting some benefits and the sleep inertia is relatively short.
You know, I have a hard time falling asleep during the day. I just can't. But the times I have, even a 1 minute, 2 minute naps, I wake up feeling amazing, and I'm not kidding. I feel so refreshed. It feels like it had been 2 hours of sleep, but when you look at the clock, you realize it's only been a minute or two, but it feels like hours, and I feel great. So that's a very, very short sleep, nap, but a huge impact.
Oh yeah, and sometimes you don't have to sleep at all. Sometimes just resting your
Shutting
body.
your brain off.
Yeah, and that can go a long way. Also, I'm actually reading a book right now called Sacred Rest by Dr. Sandra Dalton-Smith. And she says that sleep is only one of 7 different types of rest. So sleep is a passive form of physical rest, but there's emotional, social, mental, among others. And so sometimes you could be a great sleeper and still feel some type of fatigue during the day, and it might be that you need a different kind of rest. You might not need more sleep necessarily, but there might be something else going on.
Yeah, there's all kinds of rests. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's psychological rest, the emotional rest. Normally, those two are what impacts us tremendously, right?
Yeah.
If you can take care of those two, the others are easier. Like the physical rest is the easiest thing, but that's what people talk about the most.
Right.
I need rest, and they immediately think it's the physical rest. It's not, actually. It's, the emotional, psychological. Focus on that first, and then see how well you'll feel right away. Now, how do you think sleep affects things like productivity, focus, and the mood?
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who generally sleeps okay and then has that one crappy night of sleep knows the next day can be totally shot, right? You just staring at your computer screen, not motivated, craving foods, starchy, sugary foods. For people who consistently don't sleep well and it becomes their normal, they might not notice it as much on a day-to-day basis.
Wow.
But what's interesting is if then you can get that person onto a routine of sleeping well.
And I see a huge difference, like, oh, this wasn't normal.
They're amazed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was one of those people. Seriously. I thought I was sleeping very well because I actually never had a hard time falling asleep. But then I didn't realize how my day-to-day was affecting my actual sleep. I could have slept better.
Yeah.
How do high-performing people like CEOs and athletes optimize their sleep?
Yes. So some of them don't. Some of the high-performing folks think that they don't need sleep.
Wow.
Which is so discouraging to hear. They might think, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't need, there's only so many hours in the day.
I gotta go.
What's the first and easiest thing to sacrifice is sleep. I think athletes generally do appreciate the impact of good quality sleep on their performance. And so, it's keeping a consistent routine, napping, strategically napping during the day, just prioritizing sleep.
And I know many CEOs, they actually do take naps. You think they wake up, and they do wake up super early, right? A lot of CEOs, at least successful ones, they do wake up super early, from 5 a.m. and so, right? But they do take naps. If you actually do the research and see their daily routines, they do. And also high-performing athletes too.
Yeah.
Look it up. I mean, Ronaldo, for example, right? Our biggest soccer player. I don't know right now what he's scheduled, but he takes 4 to 5 naps a day.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
But look at what he's able to do, how he's accomplished so much.
Yeah.
Right? He's got that routine, that schedule. He gets his sleep, he gets his meals, he works a lot, right? But see his success, right? He does so well. Yeah. And you can do that for yourselves, right? So what are the hidden dangers of sleep deprivation that people don't talk about?
I think a lot of people don't realize or understand the impact on our long-term health, both physical and mental health. Consistent lack of sleep can lead to cardiovascular disease, even forms of cancer. I mean, so many different health issues, Alzheimer's, dementia. And we, again, we're this hustle society, and we're, all about what have you done for me lately, and, what's happening right now. And so it's hard to sell somebody on what's coming down the road 10, 15, 20 years from now if you're not getting the sleep you need.
That's true. I mean, that's scary, right? So we really have to take this seriously. How does sleep affect mental health, and can better sleep reduce anxiety and depression?
Yes. So mental health, absolutely, it can impact us. And this is where a lot of our, the REM sleep plays an important role. And what we mostly think about REM sleep as that dream state of sleep, but it helps with our creativity, our complex emotional processing, so much to do with our ability to interact with other people and relate to other people. They've done research where people who have been sleep deprived and then showing them different facial expressions, and even seeing a neutral expression, they consider it to be negative. So when we don't sleep enough, we lean toward the negative. That's kind of the default.
Oh, yeah.
And so at work, it can impact how teams work together. How you interact with your spouse or your kids. It really does play a big role in terms of
it's like further reasons why you should prioritize sleep, right?
Right.
Over having a drink with a friend or doing other things that really interrupt your life, right? So
yes, yeah. In terms of, I would say we always want to incorporate as much joy into our day as we can. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But yes, balance it out.
Right. In a day that you're exhausted and it's 6 o'clock and now you feel guilty to say no to that friend that you were supposed to meet, and you can't, you just don't have the energy. But you feel guilty of canceling, so you still go, but now it's affecting you for days of your life, right? Because you didn't get to bed on time that you really needed to. That's when we need to make decisions and say, sorry, friend, I really am not in a mental state to do this.
Right.
Can we reschedule? Get yourself to bed. You feel refreshed the next day and much better versus ruining your whole week.
Right.
What's the fastest way to reset your sleep schedule if you've been staying up too late?
It's a combination of two things I recommend to get yourself more in sync with your natural rhythm, your circadian rhythm, and that's getting outside into natural light first thing in the morning, ideally within 10 minutes of waking up. There's a saying I love, how well we rise is how well we rest. So what we do first thing in the morning can absolutely impact how we sleep that night. So grab your morning drink, take it outside, spend 5-10 minutes outside in the sunlight. It chills the body. It's time to start gradually producing cortisol. We want a nice gradual increase in our cortisol. If you're sticking your phone in your face first thing in the morning, it's spiking your cortisol, and that's a stress response, which we don't want. And it also sets the clock so your body knows so many hours from now we're going to start decreasing cortisol and increasing melatonin. So that's the first piece. The other piece is maintaining a consistent bedtime and wake time every day, even on the weekends, as much as possible, within probably a 30-minute variation. If you pair those two things together, in 2 to 3 weeks, you'll absolutely experience a positive shift in your sleep.
And it's our brain is really, really amazing, by the way. I mean, sometimes it shocks me. We have this alarm clock, most of us do, where it doesn't matter what time you go to sleep. Let's say your normal routine is 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., right? If you have days where you go to bed at 1 a.m., you're still waking up at 5:30 a.m., right? So you're really only getting that, 5 hours of sleep. But our brain has an internal clock. I find it really amazing that we're able to wake up without an alarm clock. Like it just knows exactly the time. I wake up, and this kind of creeps me out sometimes, but my brain, my body wakes me up exactly at 5:40 a.m. every single morning. Alarm clock or not, I wake up at that exact time. And I find it a bit creepy. How can it be that precise?
Yeah, our body loves routine, and we can condition our brain and our body. So one suggestion, if somebody is consistently waking up during the night, say 3 a.m., don't look at the clock. Because every time you wake up at 3 a.m. and you look at the clock, you are conditioning your body and your brain to wake up at 3 a.m. Don't look at the clock. And one thing I should say, and hopefully this will put some minds at ease, is it's natural to wake up during the night. And we all do. So we cycle through the stages of sleep every 90 to 100 minutes or so. And once we've completed a sleep cycle, it's natural to wake up a bit, but most of us just roll over, fall back asleep, don't even remember it the next day. It only really becomes an issue if you're then having trouble falling back to sleep 10 or more minutes after. Then we need to try to fix it. But if you remember, I woke up a few times last night, well, if you fell right back to sleep, don't stress about it.
Right.
It's natural.
Right, yeah. I've had some days where when my daughter sleeps over at friends' houses, I don't sleep as well. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and it happens all the times when she's not a sleepover too, but when she's at a sleepover, I actually look at my phone to see what time it is, and mostly to check if they reached out to me. Oh, is she okay? Does she need to come home? That sort of thing. But when I do that, it takes me 5-10 minutes to fall back asleep, because now I looked at something, right? The blue light again. Yeah. And it's harder to fall asleep. But other times, it's like, oh, I'm awake. Okay, I'm just going to go back to sleep. Yeah. And it's nothing. So I get that.
Wait till they first go to college.
Did you call me? Okay, so what are some easy sleep hacks for busy people who don't have time for long bedtime routines?
First, it's being aware of what you're doing in the evening so that you are not elevating your cortisol levels. I would say that's the first thing. Okay. So even if you don't have a quote-unquote routine, just make sure that the things that you're doing are more conducive to rest. And as I mentioned before, trying to incorporate throughout the day just a few minutes here and there of little things that you can do to reset and calm the nervous system. And so it literally only takes a couple minutes at various points during the day. Getting that morning sun, first thing, is just going to set your whole day up beautifully. And then if you're even able to step outside at other points during the day, that also helps. For instance, if we in the afternoon we often have a little dip in our energy. We have that afternoon slump. That's part of our natural rhythm. Our body temperature drops a couple degrees, and it makes us feel a little bit sleepy at that time. So instead of reaching for a coffee, caffeine, and energy drink, go outside. And if you're tuned into your body and you know when that usually happens for you, get outside preemptively. So 10 minutes before you typically feel that drop, and get out into the natural light, and that should give you a natural boost.
Wow, so almost like
energy.
grounding yourself, right? Wow, okay. Are sleep trackers, like this different tracking devices and apps, actually helpful, or do they actually cause more stress, do you think?
They can be helpful. There are some folks who get too obsessed with the data. There's an actual term, orthosomnia, where they're so obsessed with getting perfect sleep. So if you're one of those people that you're checking the data every day, how many minutes of deep sleep did I get, et cetera, then it's kind of counterproductive. So then you might not want to use a tracker. But for other folks, it can be helpful. Most of, if not all of the current wearables that are on the market, they're not really 100% accurate with their data points. So, but if you use them, looking at them once a week or on a monthly basis, and kind of just look for trends of what's going on, that's probably a better use. But the other question you want to ask is, okay, I've got this information, now what? What do I do with it?
There's so much more new apps now, right? Especially if you have an iPhone. It can actually tell you if you're having an anxiety attack, panic attacks. It's very creepy. It actually scans, so you can wear the rings or the watch, or actually even if you just have the phone, it scans your finger and somehow it knows. I tried it for a couple of days and it made me freak out. Because I tried it different times. I tried it on the days where I felt extremely stressed, and it actually was telling me that your levels are really, really high.
Yeah.
You need to do something about it. And it freaked me out. I'm like, how do you know? And then I had my kids try it too. I'm like, see, you're relaxed. Can you try what it looks like for you? And it said something else. So I'm like, how could it be so accurate? But I've tried other, like the watches, and it's kind of scary because, like you said, it really can be counterproductive because I was paying attention so much. The moment I woke up, does it know what time I fell asleep? And it would tell you the time, how many times you woke up, or if you had any REM sleep, how long was your REM sleep, and it was just too much details for me. So I decided I don't want to use it anymore. Like I don't use any of that because it was too stressful for me. I mean, like you said, it might work for other people. You just make sure you make that decision for yourself.
Right.
Okay, so last question. What is the craziest and most unexpected sleep trick that you have seen that actually worked for people?
Gosh.
It's a hard one.
This is a hard one.
I mean, so for babies, for example, we have, many parents will put them on top of a washing machine, so it does that, motion movement. So I thought that was crazy when I was a mom that, wow, you're doing that, right? And then some people fall asleep standing. I think that's kind of crazy. Or sleeping. I mean, like sitting. I have a hard time. I can never sleep sitting. It doesn't matter how exhausted I am. I just can't do it.
Right.
But, I don't know. I'm sure there's crazy stories out there that, some of this stuff happens, but it works for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that one suggestion that I give to people, which it seems kind of odd, but for folks who wake up in the middle of the night and have a hard time getting back to sleep, one thing you can try is getting out of bed and repeating whatever it is you do right before you go to sleep. So if that's washing your face and brushing your teeth, do all of that again. And again, it's a trigger to your brain, like, oh, it's time to go to bed, time to go to sleep, and then get back in bed. and that can often help.
I actually have clients that I've told them to do that, and it works. It works. It could be in the middle of the night, and they go through that routine, and they fall asleep.
Yeah. And also, to that point, if you are lying in bed and unable to fall back to sleep 20, 30 minutes, you do want to get out of bed. So as we've been talking about, our brains are super associative, and we want our brains to associate bed with sleep and sex. We don't want it to associate lying there, ruminating, worrying about what you have to do, what's on your to-do list. So you get out of bed and either do what we just talked about, or engage in some type of relaxing activity, whatever that is for you, knitting, reading, listening to
do the dishes you have in your sink,
whatever it is. Just make sure it's not something that is going to cause you to become
fully awake,
fully alert and awake. And then when you feel tired, then get back into bed.
That's some great advice. I bet a lot of people stay awake at night. Actually, I know I've had a lot of clients that actually have difficulties falling back asleep.
Yes.
So, I mean, first of all, thank you for so much information. I mean, this is a big issue that, it's worldwide that people face. So how can others find your services, and how can they reach out to you?
Sure. They can find me. My website is jenniferevewellness.com.
That's awesome. Great. And do you do like free consultations, or like do you do any of that so that they can get to know you a little bit more and see if you can help them?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I do one-on-one coaching and some group coaching, but absolutely can start with a free call to see if it makes sense to work together, see if I'm able to help what might be going on, what someone's struggling with.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we just talked, there is so much that you can do to, change a routine and feel better and actually get the sleep, because it impacts us in so many ways. And if you don't take care of it long term, it can really have a serious effect in your life. So, so I'm glad. I mean, I love what you do. You're really making a big impact with others.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you for answering my million questions. But I really thank you, because it's really going to help others.
I hope so.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome.